About a year ago, you joined my colleague Brittany Lewis to talk about this and your bill, the Emergency Vacating of Aircraft Cabin Act, and the FAA's 90-second standard, which you've already touched on. Can you outline your bill again for us? And has any progress been made in the year since we touched base with you?
Yeah, so it is in the FAA reauthorization bill that hopefully we're going to pass within the next couple of months here. I've taken the components of my EVAC Act, which basically says the FAA will be required to fully establish an emergency evacuation standard that takes real life conditions into account. So I included in that they must simulate carry-on bags, they must simulate children, car seats, seniors, passengers with disabilities, passengers who don't speak English, as part of their evacuation standard. So we're going to direct the FAA to do that and develop new standards.
Mhm. And I'm curious how the Biden administration has been as a partner in all of these topics that we've been talking about. Has the Secretary of Transportation, Pete Buttigieg, worked with you on any of this?
He has, and most importantly, the new FAA administrator. This was something I spoke with Administrator Whitaker, who was just confirmed. But in his nomination and confirmation process, I had extensive conversations with him and said, you need to do this. This is how you're going to get my support for your nomination and confirmation as FAA administrator. And he's very supportive of this process.
And so beyond transportation safety and accessibility, what other legislative priorities can we expect from you this year?
Well, within the FAA reauthorization bill, you should know this also ties into the Japan airline incident, is having ground radar. So we have radar that looks at aircraft in the air, but not all of our airports have radar on the ground that will help us with these collisions. So like happened with Japan Airlines, they had two aircraft collide with one another. That's how the fire started. And so in the FAA reauthorization bill, there is money for the implementation of ground radar at all of our commercial airports, our large airports. There's also money for training of air traffic controllers, training of more pilots, training of more maintenance equipment and maintenance personnel. So we have a lot of things in this FAA reauthorization bill that is going to make flying safer for the American people.
And I guess my final question for you is that some people might see these recent events and be like, I'm terrified of flying. Flying's already a scary event. What do you have to say to them where, how can you reassure Americans that flying truly is safe?
Well, that the number of instances of injuries from flying is far less than getting in your car and driving down to the grocery store or driving to work. But know that the regulations are some of the strongest and most stringent in the world, and that I certainly am keeping an eye on it. And I fly on a 737 MAX all the time. It's actually the standard aircraft that flies between Chicago and Washington, D.C. And I'll make darn sure that we keep flying as safe as possible. And we do have fixes in place for all of this.
Thank you so much for your time today, Senator.